Hello everyone. So friends, in our previous lecture we discussed about a basic introduction to test doubles, and we also saw that there are various types of test doubles, and among those test doubles one of the test double is fake test double. So friends, in this section of course we will be looking into that what is a fake test double, and we will also see its demonstration in IntelliJ. So friends, what is a fake test double? So here you can see that fake objects or test double are usually the lightweight objects that are used only for testing. They have working implementation but not as the actual production object. So what do we mean by it? Let's say we want to test a class and that class is dependent on another class which talks to the database. So what happens is, as we know that we can't unit test the class because it is dealing with actual database. So if we want to unit test the class without the database, what we do is the external dependency which is talking to the database, we usually create a fake object of it, which is actually a lightweight object. It has some working implementation, but it is not an actual production object because it is not talking to the database. So here you can see that fake objects have functional implementation, but it's in very basic form. So what do we mean by it? Let's say for example our class under test has an external dependency which is talking to the actual production database. Now instead of actual production database, we can use an in-memory database, a hash map or a list to simply mimic the actual production database. So what we can do is we can use a hash map or a list to basically read or write something which we do with the actual production database. So here instead of going to actual production database, we are simply using the lightweight working implementations which are very local to our unit test, and thus the fake test double help us in unit testing the class which we want to test. Moving ahead. So friends, here you can see that we have one class book service and it has an external dependency book repository which actually communicates to the database. So in order to test the book service class using the fake test double, what we can do is instead of calling book repository which actually deals with the production database, what we can do is we can create a fake book repository which instead of going to the database have some working implementation very similar to the database, like storing it in list or hash map, which is nothing but a fake implementation of the actual production database. So by doing this, we are actually testing our book service class without going into actual production database, and instead using the fake book repository, we are making everything very local. So by using fake test double, we can test book service class efficiently, and the test cases which we are writing are very fast because they don't have to go to the actual database. So friends, now let's go to IntelliJ and see the demonstration of test doubles without Mockito. So we'll create our own fake test double. Hello everyone. So friends, in one of our previous lecture, we created a Maven project and we included the dependency for JUnit5 into it. So we'll use the same project, and in this section, we'll actually see the demonstration of fake test double. So friends, the example I will be taking is, let's say we want to test a particular class by name book service. So the book service, let's say have two methods. One is to add a book and other is to find the number of books. And what it does is, it has an external dependency by name book repository which actually talks to the database. So when we call the book service add book method, it simply uses the book repository and saves the book into the database. And when we call the find the number of books in book service class, it simply uses the book repository methods and gets the number of books present in the database. So here, first I will be creating a package. Let's say I give the name to it as com.hubberspot.com Mockito dot test doubles dot fake. And inside this package I will be creating a class by name book service. So this is our class under test, and let's say this class is dependent on book repository, which actually talks to the database. We'll be creating a constructor to get a hold of this book repository when we initialize the book service class. So currently book repository is not there, so we'll create this class. So here book repository is basically an interface. So for the simplicity of this demonstration, I will be keeping this book repository into the same package as book service. So in real world project, the book service is actually part of service layer, and the book repository is actually part of the DAO layer. But here I am simply keeping it in the same package. So here let's say the book repository has two methods. One is the save, which actually saves the book into the database. Another method is find all. So this method returns a collection of the books present in the database. So here now we will create the book class. We'll keep it in the same package. So let's say to this book class we give few properties as book ID, which is something unique to this book. We'll give it a title, because usually books have a title, and we'll add a price to it. And let's say we also add the date on which it was published. We'll create the constructor, we'll add those properties, and we create getters and setters. So this is our book class, which will be acting as an entity for the book repository. We'll import the java.util collection. So friends, here you can see that currently we don't have the book repository implementation. It's just an interface. And let's say in future we provide a book repository implementation. So this book service class has two methods. Add book, which will be simply adding the book to the database using the book repository class. And the other method is find number of books from the database. So we'll simply return book repository dot find all, which will return us back the collection of books, and we'll simply do size on it. So which will return the count of number of books present in the database. So friend, let's say book service is our class under test, and its external dependency is book repository. So friends, one beauty of test double is we can test book service class without even the actual implementation of book repository, because for this book repository we can create a test double out of it, and we can simply test the book service class. So friend, in this section of course we are actually seeing the demonstration of fake test double. So we'll see that how we can unit test this book service class using the fake test double without actually going to the database and testing these methods. So here in our test folder, I will be creating a package com.hoverspot.mockito.testdoubles.fake, and let's say here I create a test class. I give it a name as fake test. And here I create a test method. So we are simply importing the @test from awk.junit.jupyter.api. So the name of the test I give is test fake. So friends, now our goal is to actually test the book service class. So the first step we do is we create the instance of book service class. So here you can see that book service requires book repository, and we don't have any actual implementation of book repository. So what we can do is we can create a fake book repository. So here we'll create a class. We'll give it a name as fake book repository. So this fake book repository will implement the book repository class and its two methods, save and find all. So friends, here you can see the fake test double. What it does is, instead of going to the actual database, it can create the lighter form of database which is very local to our test cases. So what we can do is, instead of actual production database, we can either use the in-memory database or a hash map or list to basically act as a bookstore. So here we'll be creating a map of string as a key and book as a value. We'll give it a name as bookstore. So this bookstore will be acting as a lighter form of actual database. So here you can see that how we can use now this bookstore to actually test the book service add book and find number of books method. So here, let's say when the save method is called from the book service, so this fake book repository comes into picture, and what it does is it will simply store this book to this hash map instead of going to the actual database. So we'll call the put method, and as a key we'll pass the book ID because it's a unique thing and the actual book. So this will store the book into the bookstore hash map, and in the find all method what we can do is we can simply call the bookstore.values, which will return us back all the books stored into this bookstore. So friends, here you can see that how this fake book repository is helping us to test the book service class, because now this book repository is not going to the actual database. It is actually storing something into this bookstore, which is an hash map, which is nothing but a fake implementation. So here, now what we can do is we can create the instance of fake book repository. Now as fake book repository implements book repository, we can simply use this book repository into our book service constructor. So friend, let's say we use book service, we call add book method, and we add a book. Let's say we give book ID as 1234, title as Mockito in Action, and let's say we give price as 250, and the published date, let's say we give local date, not now. Similarly, we'll simply copy and add one more book. Let's say we give ID as 1235 and the title as JUnit 5 in Action. Let's say we give price as 200 and the published date as local date.now. So friends, here we have added two books using this add book method. So internally what will happen, as we have passed book repository here, so when we'll call the save method, so this fake book repository save method will be called and it will simply store the book into this bookstore. So friends, as we have added these two books, now we'll simply test the find number of books method and we'll see that whatever books we have added are actually added to our bookstore or not. So we'll simply do assert equals so we'll import assert equals from the assertions class. So this is a static method. So here you can see that the assert equals takes an expected value and an actual value. So let's say we give the expected value as 2 and the actual value we call find number of books. So friends, if we run this test case now, so here you can see the test case ran successfully and we could test the book service methods without even going to the database. So here this fake test double help us in creating the fake implementation of the external dependency which we can't test via unit test. So it actually creates the lighter form of the external dependency. So in this lecture we saw that how we can create a fake test double without using Mockito, which actually helped us in testing the book service class which depended on the book repository which communicated to the database. So friends, I hope you like this video. Thanks, have a nice day.